Hello everyone, and welcome to Deck Restoration, a show where I do my best to craft a theoretical wave of support to make a deck playable without going overboard. I get one main deck monster, one extra deck monster, one spell, and one trap that I can use to fix my chosen deck. So let's see what we could do today with Evol. It was always going to be Evol that I started with. I'm obsessed with these little guys. These guys have a really cool evolution gimmick that makes them very bad. Despite this, they have some crazy strong cards that draw me to them. I've tried several times to make these cards playable to mixed success, but they've certainly never been meta. Until now. My new wave of support aims to take these new guys out of Rogue and below to at least tier 3. Going much higher than that might be impossible, but I think this wave does allow them to create a very powerful end board that'll let them steal Centurion's spot as the best turn skip deck. So without further ado, let's check out our new cards. First up, we have our main deck monster, Evol Ardeo. The first thing you'll notice is the card art. Originally, I had planned to make this challenge a bit funnier by using images from Wikimedia Commons, the public domain image repository and archive for Wikipedia, but then I told Ada Basilisk about this project, and Voy made a whole set of arts for me for this project, which is really cool. Go check out Ada down below. I'm going to have a link for Ada in every episode because these are so cool. Look at my boy, Evol Ardeo. He's perfect. He's licking his own eye. The second thing you'll notice is I've written these cards in the OCG style, or more specifically, like how we write them over here when we do fan translations. This is going to make it easier to parse what's going on. I'm sure you understand. We should be making the cards like this in TCG anyways. Alright, so Evol Ardeo is, of course, one of the first stage monsters in the archetype, the reptile Evoltiles. It follows our naming scheme of a truncated form of a species name of a real-life extinct reptile. Ardeo is named after the Ardeosaurus from late Jurassic period Bavaria. As for the card text, we have the customary balancing text of the hard once per turn. You can only use each effect of a volatile Ardeo once per turn. The first effect allows you to send a main deck Evol monster to the grave as cost. Unfortunately for me, you have to write the full names of the two separate archetypes, very annoying. Then once you send that Evol monster, you can special summon Ardeo and add an Evoltile or evolution card from deck to hand. That's right, baby, it's a circular. The deck runs through card advantage and has so few playables that you need to give it something like this to actually make the deck good. Then we have a weaker effect to round it out. You can shuffle any number of Evol monsters from your hand into the deck and then draw that many cards. A simple refresh effect that gets the dinosaurs out of your hand and back into the deck where they belong. This guy is designed to set up the graveyard, fix our hand, and put an Evoltile on the field for material. It's a lot, but the deck needs a lot, so I'm fine with that. The deck deserves at least one card starter, right? Come on. Next up, we have our extra deck monster, and there's a really obvious direction we could have gone in making a new Evolzar, but all of the Evolzars are already pretty crazy. So instead, I decided to take the archetype in a slightly new direction that I hope you'll all like instead of crucifying me for. Introducing Evolsaur Kentro. This is the first extra deck Evolsaur, and it does follow the naming scheme of a truncated dinosaur species name. This one is named after the Kentrosaurus, a stegosaurid from late Jurassic Tanzania. This is a Link 1 monster with a downward arrow that can be made with a non-Link Evoltile. The arrow and the material requirement is all for future-proofing. It doesn't really matter currently. It leaves us some design space for future waves of support. The Link 1 part is pretty powerful, but I think it makes the evolution aspect of the Evoltile into the Evolsaur make a bit more sense and easier to do. Hopefully you'll see with the effects that it's fairly reasonable. Of course, we start with our hard ones per turn on each effect, and then we have our on-summon effect that can either add an Evoltile or any spell trap with the Evo prefix. The big problem with searching in this deck is that the spell traps all have different names. In this case, we're going with the Evo, where most of the best cards are. Whereas with Ardeo, we went with the Evolution, where some of the less good cards are. Our second effect allows Kentro to fulfill the Evolution game plan of Evolsaurs by tributing itself and an Evol monster to special summon an Evolzar from the extra deck. This lets us cheat out the Evolzar as if Kentro was a main deck Evolsaur. Then it can load up an Xyz summoned by that effect with 2 dinosaurs or reptile materials from the grave. This is worded in a way to future-proof in case we ever make a Link Evolzar monster. This card lets us have a bit more consistency and have a little bit more of an end board by giving us another Evolzar on field. Seems reasonable to me. Next up for our spell, we have Evolution Lab, the first field spell for the archetype. Ada did an incredible job, absolutely inspired, putting Magical Scientist in here. Holy moly. And then Solda just overhead. Oh man, this is so good. I was not expecting such a crazy art for this. And then you of course you see the Seal Orichalcos in that book there. Ah, it's so good. Very strange that this deck with so many cards has no field spell, but I'm fixing that here. This is named in the form of the evolution cards instead of the Evo cards. I did one of each to remain consistent with the inconsistency. A lab felt like an appropriate field for these weird little guys, so Here we are. So this card starts with the Rescue H HQ effect that reinforces the tri-typing of the Evols, giving reptiles, dinos, and dragons 500 attack and defense while the opponent controls a monster. This is deceptively powerful for the archetypes as it makes the Evol Tsars much harder to run over in battle. Then, once per turn, you get to summon an Evol from hand, deck, or grave if you summon an Evol Tsar by the effect of an Evol Tile monster. This means you recover card advantage instead of losing it when you use your Evol Tile effects. It provides a bit more extension for the deck without being a standard field spell effect. A pretty simple field spell that really bolsters the archetype's weaknesses. You'll note that this card can be searched by Ardeo, which is pretty neat. Lastly, we have Evo Dead End, a counter trap to search as part of your combo, which Konami seems really fond of making. Probably gonna see a lot more of these things on the show. This one is named after the concept of an evolutionary dead end, and Ada knocked that out of the park. That, look at that. That's incredible. Lagia just absolutely obliterating a guy. Holy moly. It's so good. Wow. We've got the usual once per turn on everything. The main effect is a negation of a summon for the extra deck while you control an Evol Tsar monster. We've added a lot of consistency and power to the deck, so just a little boost to the end board seems fine to me. We also have a graveyard effect that allows you to quick exease an Evol Tsar monster using monsters on field, but ignoring the material requirements. This means you can, at quick effect speed, use your used up Evol Tsars or any spare materials you have on field to make an additional Evol Tsar. We really want to have live Evol Tsars on field at all times in this conception of the deck. This one is probably the weakest of the four, but still has an interesting place in the deck, especially since it provides a non-monster effect based interruption and more Evol Tsars as well. So there's our new cards. Some pretty powerful ones in here, but I think nothing truly beyond the pale. After all, you still have to play Evols to really take advantage of them. If this does end up needing nerfing, I think the most logical way to do that would be to add more locks. I don't think the cards really open up any weird combos with other stuff other than Beatrice, but that's already banned, and that's really the only way I see these cards being broken, so I think we're fine. Either that or you can just remove some effect ticks from Ardeo. He really does do a lot for this deck. Now that we've got our cards though, what do we do with them? Well, I made a deck to show them off, and I'm also going to show you a couple of test hands. Let's check it out. For this deck, we started with our 3 Ardeo, our starter, and with one of each of our spell and trap that we could search over the course of our combo. We have 3 Mega Kyrella, a pretty good normal summon. This card lets us summon an Evol Tsar from the deck by tributing an Evol tile and discarding a card. This is why we have so many cards to help us regain card advantage. Mega Kyrella can also refill one of our spent Evol Tsars with more material, which is pretty neat. I was considering putting this effect on one of the custom cards, but Mega Kyrella does well enough. The only thing is that Mega Kyrella as a starter kinda conflicts with Ardeo as a starter, so you want to make sure you're using Ardeo and then Mega Kyrella as a backup plan. We have one Yugioh, which when tributed summons an Evol Tsar from deck. No once per turn on that, which Evolution Lab can take advantage of, and it's a good send to the graveyard because of Evol Tile Follis from the most recent wave of support. When it's summoned, you can summon an Evol Tile from hand or grave face down, and then can grab an Evo Force from the deck to the field. It also has a protection effect to replace a destruction with a tribute of a reptile or dino. For our Evol Tsars, we have 3 of the best one printed Leos. This guy on summon sets Evo Singularity, an incredible card. It can also send an Evol Tsar from deck to grave to change the level and type of 2 monsters on the field to match the card sent. That mostly doesn't matter, but it does for some combos, so you'll see when we do that. And then finally we have 1 Volcano, which can revive an Evol Tsar from the grave. We're on as few of these as possible. Sure, you can shuffle them back into the deck once, but you can just draw them again after that. Better safe than sorry. For spells, we have 3 Evo Diversity, which searches all of our monsters, making the deck much more consistent, and 3 Evo Force to search off of Follis. This can also extend your combo, so it's pretty good to have around. It allows us to tribute an Evol Tile monster to summon an Evol Tsar from the deck, which is treated as being summoned by an Evol Tile monster. This also procs Evolution Lab and, of course, Yugioh's effect. But it does not proc Leos, so keep that in mind. For traps, we have Evo Singularity, which summons an Evol Tsar by using an Evol Tile and an Evol Tsar in grave as material. It doesn't have a once per turn, so you could play 3, but we're only playing the 2. We want more non-engine in the deck. We could theoretically put the extra one in the side deck though. I could see that being useful. For the non-engine, we actually have quite a bit of it, at least relative to other Evol decks. It feels so good to have this many slots now, especially since this kind of seems necessary to play the game at this point. We have 3 Fenrir to help us clear sticky boards, especially going second. It's also just really good to protect our Evol Tsars. Again, they are really small and you won't see Evolution Lab every game. Just banish their fucking asses instead. 3 Ash Blossom helps us stop stupid stuff. 3 Droll and Lockbird, because it's a pretty powerful floodgate against most decks still. 3 of the recent Mulcharmy Fua loss. You gotta play it. Gotta play it. You gotta play it. 3 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, which is having a bit of a renaissance this format, and 3 Infinite Impermanence, one of the best hand traps in the game. For the extra, we have 2 of Kentro because he's pretty useful. We have Zeus to slap on any of our Evolzars, which should be pretty useful for clearing up boards, especially because we can refill the materials on our Evolzars with Mega Kyrella. Then we have 2 of every Evolzar except for Solda. Fuck that guy. Evolzar Lars gives us 2 Omni Negates for any card on the field and can't be targeted. Dolka can negate and destroy 2 monster effects, and then Lagia can negate either a summon or a spell trap, but only once because it uses 2 materials. Then we have a link package of very powerful creatures. IP Masquerena lets us quick link into SP Little Knight to banish some stuff. Access Code is a big guy who could win the game on the spot. All of our stuff is fire, so we can actually engage in some of the Year of the Fire big hitters like Hita, and of course Prom Princess, and of course Salamangreat Raging Phoenix. Now that we've covered what I built with the new cards, let's check out what they actually do. So for our first test hand, I wanted to show you what I could do with just Ardeo as our starter, and then of course our rest of our hand is a bunch of non-engine. You should actually start with Fenrir in this case, but I was just too focused on getting the Ardeo combo down. So let's go here, we're gonna go main phase. Ardeo, effect, send Yugioh. Ardeo summons, and then it searches. It does a lot in one effect. That's the only thing I'm a little concerned about as far as Ardeo goes. We got the Folus, and then we go Ardeo into Kentro. Kentro effect to grab Evo Dead End. Now, the thing about Ardeo's search effect is that you want to grab Evolution Lab unless you don't have a way to get the Folus. If you don't have any way to get the Folus, you need to get Folus. You could also theoretically get Folus off of Kentro and go Evolution Lab instead of Evo Dead End, but I think Evo Dead End is just a better grab. We're going to summon the Folus. Folus effect to grab Yugioh. Yugioh face down. We're going to use the Folus effect to grab the Evo Force. We're going to activate the Evo Force, tributing Yugioh, which is going to proc the Evo Force to grab the Leos, and then we're going to get the effect of Yugioh in Grave to summon out a second Leos, which has been summoned by the effect of a fire monster, which means its effect actually can activate as opposed to the other one. We're going to set the Evo Singularity, and we're going to overlay them both for a Dolka. We're going to go Kentro effect here to get Lars and then attach the materials. We're going to set that Evo Dead End, and there we have it. We have 2 negates on Dolka, we have 2 Omni negates on Lars. These are monster effects negates on Dolka. We have a ability to go into a third Evolzar with Evo Singularity. We don't have the materials in Grave yet, but we will detach them off of Dolka and Folus, or Lars, I mean, where you can detach the Kentro. So that all works out as far as that goes. You use one negate and then you get to make another one. And then Evo Dead End gets us a negation of a summon as well. So that's quite a few negates on board. And that seems to be the theme of the Evol deck, is getting a whole bunch of negates on board. So I kind of tried to lean into that. And then obviously you would have Kashtira Fenrir on board as well. And then Ghost Ogre, Droll Unlock, and Fualas in hand. Fualas makes good discard material for Mega Kyrella, I guess. So that hand was what you could do with just our 1-card starter. But what if you have the 1-card starter and an extender? Let's see what happens. We go main phase. We're going to go Ardeo. Same combo as last time. We're going to go Yugioh. We're going to grab Evolution Lab this time because we have the Evo Force in hand. This is what I was talking about earlier about grabbing Evolution Lab sometimes. Evolution Lab, we're going to go into Kentro here. Kentro effect, we have to grab the Folus. We need the Folus in hand. Folus effect, summon an effect to get the Yugioh. Folus effect to get the second Evo Force. Evo Force away then Yugioh, getting the Leos. That'll trigger the Yugioh and then the Evolution Lab in sequence. Yugioh summoning back Yugioh, and then Yugioh summoning the Leos from deck. Leos from deck can get the Evo Singularity. Then we can use the Leos effect to get a Leos in Grave. The reason we're doing this is because we're going to summon a Volcano, and we need an Evolsar in Grave to summon back with Volcano. That's the targets for Leos' effect. It changes the types and levels of those 2 monsters. We're going to go into Dolka. Then we're going to Evo Force on our Yugioh again. Again, no once per turn on this, which gets us the Volcano. Volcano effect gets us the Leos. And then we get to make Lagia. And then Kentro effect, using the Fullest, we can make Lars and then attach the materials. So there's that. Dolka for 2 negates, Lagia for a summon negate, much like Evo Dead End, but it's the one you can actually refill with Mega Kyrella. But then again, Evo Dead End can make another Evolsar as well on its own, so kind of depends on how you want to go. If you draw into Fullest, this combo actually would go even further because you wouldn't have to search the Fullest. You would have all of this and Evo Dead End set up. But I think this is plenty. The previous combo is also plenty. I think you're going to be fine with either of these combos. As long as you see that 1-card starter, I think you're doing all right. And there's 6 ways to get to it, so it's not bad. Even more if you want to use some Snake Eyes stuff. So this hand is going to be a bit more of a what if you don't draw your 1-card starter situation. So we have the Mega Kyrella, we have the Evo Force, we have the Evo Dead End. These are just random cards I pulled. So we got Mega Kyrella effect, discarding the Volcano. We don't need it in hand. We're going to go Leos effect, set Evo Singularity, set Evo Dead End. That's it, baby. That's all you need. So the thing about it is we have a Evolsar and an Evoltile engrave. That allows us to make an Zar with Evo Singularity, and then Evo Dead End is online. It's not an ideal setup. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's why I think the power level of these cards is still valid. Like I don't feel too bad about making these cards so powerful. It's because this deck is still bad. It's still not a good deck. I think it's still like it's powerful enough to compete, but I feel like it's still going to have hands like this, or hands worse than this. There are worse hands than this for sure. Like if it was just Mega Kyrella and then all hand traps, at least the hand traps would be helpful. Like your non-engine would be helpful, but you would only be able to end on the Leos and the Evo Singularity, and you'd have to hope your opponent attacks into your Leos so you could make an Evolsar, and then they'd already set up by then. At least with this hand, we drew into the Evo Dead End, we drew into a Volcano to discard. We don't have very many Evolsars to discard, so this hand is actually, despite this hand being a bad hand, is actually pretty unlikely to happen. I think the deck is perfectly fine as far as its power level goes because of hands like this. So there's our balance check there. Well, there you have it, my new Evol cards. This wave of support seems like a reasonable step to take for the archetype. Lots of decks have been getting their own circular, and Ardeo fits in well with that trend. Kentro is really a fresh way to interpret the evolution mechanic that I think could be further expanded upon in interesting ways. Evolution Lab really helps shore up some of the weaknesses of the deck as I see them, which is really nice. Evo Dead End is kind of simple in comparison, but I think it really bumps it up just a notch higher. Overall, these cards could really help bring the deck to meta relevance, finally. Then my videos would actually be accurate for once. The added consistency, extension, and retaining of advantage really helps bring these cards to a level they really haven't ever reached before, and I don't think I went too far on any of them either, except for maybe Ardeo. Of course, the ultimate arbiter of that is you, the audience. Let me know what you think of them in the comments below, and I'll see ya in the next one. Hey there, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've got a lot more for you if you want them. Just hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to get notifications. I'd also appreciate if you left me a like and a comment and maybe shared the video around with your friends. You can also follow me on all the usual social media sites. Just check out my website in the description below for more information. My videos are funded by my patrons and YouTube members, whose names you'll see scrolling by in these credits here. For just $1 a month, you too can find yourself here, trapped in my end screen for all eternity. In particular, I'd like to thank Haru Hayes, Fleekill, Frog Prince Michael, Jeremy Coatney, and Darkbeam Rain. A big thanks to all my other patrons and to my little community as a whole. Remember to be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, and have a wonderful whatever time it is for you. Bye!